here we have set T871 from Mehano. It's the InOui TGV, the POS Duplex in Carmillon livery. So this isn't a full review because there are plenty of unboxings of Mehano sets on the internet. I'll put a link to one particular one below. A guy who does lots of reviews. He particularly likes the speed controller. Apart from that, there's not a lot to say. It's a beginner's train set, of course. So you've got the TGV with 2 carriages. One loco is powered, all 8 wheels are powered, both bogies. The other one is just a false engine. The track's just a circle. Speed controller's nice, and there's a system for the Mehano track where you clip the pieces together to stop them coming apart. So straight away, I'll get straight into it. I found I bought this yesterday. And I already had a similar set, a previous model, which I picked up secondhand, and I really liked. The details not crazy, but they run well. They're quite plasticky, but they're nicely made. The set I bought yesterday is this one, T871, and there were 3 problems that I spotted immediately that actually stop it from being usable completely. So I'll go through those problems one by one. I think I found fixes for all of them, but we'll see. So number 1 problem. The central bogie, I forget what they're called now. I've forgotten the name for these types of bogies. Basically, it's supposed to clip in like that. Basically, one comes apart. The clips are at different heights. One clips in and the other one clips in below it, except that in the kit they're both at the same height, which means that it's impossible to fit them both at the same time because they want to go in, and that's showing, at exactly the same place. So I took a quick look, and it looked like the clip itself, which is a separate piece, functions in both directions. So if that's taken out and turned over, it will come back out because of the angle. It will come out lower down, and that should hopefully solve the problem, presuming that there is this a universal part to do both sides. So it's a relatively quick fix, which I'll show you now. You need a Phillips number 1 screwdriver. So basically you have to pull the bogie apart, pull the carriage apart. There are 2 screws. I'll move this out of the way actually. There are 2 screws, both the same size. You have to unclip this bogie. It just clips in and clips out to get access to the other screw. Don't over tighten these screws. The plastic's quite delicate. There's no reason to tighten them a lot. Keep going till they kind of click, you know you've got them out a little bit more. Before you do this, it's worth noting how this goes back together. Okay, so you've got a cover plate. So now you can see the cover plate lifts off, and it just holds the coupling, which is a very, very loose slider, which basically kind of moves orientated like that, moves around like that, and the plate over it keeps it in place. So that will fall out. All of that's going to fall out, but it's pretty easy to put back. Take this out. Okay, so here's the offending piece. This is the link to the Jacob's bogie. That's the name. This is the link to the Jacob bogie, which is the wrong way up. So by just gently squeezing here, it should come out. Turn it over, pop it back in gently. Plastic's quite fragile on these models. I think it's styrene, which is what construction kits are made of. So it's quite fragile. That clips back in nicely, and I think that's going to do the trick. I just dropped the screw. Okay, so I lost the screw, so I had to pause the video. So now we can put it all back together. I'm going to edit this, but because it does take a few minutes. Don't over tighten these screws, whatever you do. Otherwise you'll be resorting to a solution involving toothpicks or glue or no idea what. Okay, so this is a kind of slightly complicated bit. That can go in at the end. You need to balance the coupling and put the base plate over it with the screw still in it. Make sure the coupling is free to move. Okay, make sure the base plate's nice and flat, and you should be able to see the screw lined up inside the hole. So, have a good look. Again, don't over tighten. And you should just feel it get to the point where it's tight. And the coupling should be completely free to move. We click the bogie back in. Fit the end of the carriage back in. That just clicks in. It's pretty straightforward. And now let's see if this has worked. So we have the Jacob's bogie which clips into one side, and now we have the coupling which is a different level which clips in, and there's the functioning tray. Just check it's all free to move. It should be, yeah. That's problem number one fixed. Problem number two. Problem number two is a bit more complicated. When I first took the carriages out of the box, just checking the general condition of them, I immediately saw that this bogie is just completely tight. It doesn't move. As you can see, it's totally jammed. In fact, both of them were. This one was as well, but I've already fixed it. I'm going to show you what the problem is. It's a bit more complicated to fix than the previous one. Take the bogie out. You can see straight away there's a problem with the moulding of these bogies. There are stress marks on both of them. I think the mouldings aren't quite accurate enough. I'm not sure, but this is how they came from a brand new box with stress marks. And if you look where the two little catches are that stop the bogie from falling out, keep it in place, but should be free to move, they're actually slightly deformed. I use one of these. I use one of these jeweler's loops, and looking really closely, there should be a 90-degree edge underneath that clip. It's actually distorted, as if it's been pushed in and out 100 times and damaged. I have no idea why it's come from the factory like that. What it means is is that it won't clip in correctly. It won't go as far as it needs to clear the other side, so it just stays jammed in the hole. The solution I found, the easiest solution, is gently with a scalpel blade or a modeling knife. You can actually just trim the underneath of the clip. I don't know whether this is going to be visible on here. This is how I did it. The clip actually overhangs. If you can see, the knife has actually gone underneath. That should be at 90 degrees like that. It's actually distorted so much that you can fit the knife under it. So all I did, I just teased it out and then just gently, don't overdo this because this would be very difficult to fix if you make a mistake. Just go slowly. You can always do a test and take a bit more off. But you'll get the idea. If it starts to look like the clip is coming out at 90 degrees, then you're probably there. And in fact, any plastic that's left sticking out is not actually going to interfere. At first I thought the whole thing was slightly too wide, but it wasn't the case. It was just the underside of this clip. I'm going to go and try that now. Let's put that back in there. It's slightly better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart again because it's easy to see what's going on from the inside. Okay, so we're back. Taking it apart again. To try to show you and try to work out for my own sake exactly what's going on. So as we click that through, there's also a bit of extra plastic there which I can take off actually. That's probably not helping. That's just a bit of flash. A bit of plastic flash from the mould. The other side seems to be okay. Let's click that back in. Voila. In fact, it was just that flash that was just stopping it going all the way. Now it clears the other side, as you can see. Now it spins. Before, it was completely jammed. I'm back on problem number 2 because it isn't fixed. When I did a test fit of the bogie, I did it from the wrong side and it spins freely. But when you do it from the correct side, it actually still doesn't spin. The one that I fixed earlier, it was sufficient to do what I just did, modifying that the boss on that clip. But this one is still reluctant to turn. It's tight. It's very tight. What's a bit bizarre is it's not tight if you put it in from the other side, which leads me to believe that it could be a problem with the hole here, because this underside of this carriage is actually painted. If you look, it's a different shade of grey. This is painted under here. You can see the slight orange peel of the spray paint. I've got a funny feeling there's a run of paint inside that hole. The paint has just made the hole slightly too small, which is not a problem from the other side because the clip has, the pivot has a split in the middle, which is possibly why it's has stress marks, because the hole's too small. So I'm going to try and clean that hole out. Probably with a file would be ideal. Let's see if I can find a file. Okay. I found a file. Let's see if this helps. Just seeing if I can just open this hole up very slightly. Keep that surface flat. Better. It's not there, but it's better. One last little go. Okay, that's the difference. It wouldn't move at all before. Now it spins. We're there. I took off no more than the thickness of that paint, which is probably, I have no idea, a tiny fraction of a tiny fraction of a millimetre. It's done. I'll pause the video, put it back together. I thought you might like to see me put it back together again, just in case you didn't catch it the first time. The tricky bit's lining this screw, which is stuck at the bottom of the cover plate, lining it up inside. It's probably better to take the end of the carriage off, but I'm going to give it a go without doing that. The right hole would help. I will take the end of the carriage off, because this is impossible to do otherwise. Okay, as you can see, I'm being lazy there, I could just take the screw out. There we go. That's in. That's loose. That's flat. That's getting tightened. Not too much. We're there. And the carriage can go back on. Bogie can go. No, can't. We're there. It was an easy fix, but if you don't know what you... It wasn't an obvious fix. The solution wasn't obvious. It took 2 seconds to do it, but that's enough to make your train derail. It makes the set unusable, and the previous problem as well. Okay. Problem number 3. Let's just bring the set back over here. I used the digital caliper to check that that previous problem, to check that the pivot of the bogie was actually the right size. I've got another Mehano train, and I measured the same pivot on that train, and they were the same size, give or take, close enough. So that wasn't the problem. It was slightly oversized. Perhaps that's ultimately what the problem was, because I think the quality of these mouldings isn't quite as good as it was a few years ago. So a combination of quality control problems. Let's put this back in here and go on to problem number 3, which I haven't got a solution for because I've not had a chance to look at problem number 3 yet. So problem number 3 I noticed was this. With the false carriage, while we're on the subject, the bogies on the false carriage of Mehano sets are basically the same moulding as the powered bogies, which means that the axles aren't needlepoint bearings. They're actually just plastic axles running in the same grooves, in the same axle holders that are designed for the geared bogies, which means they don't run as well as needlepoint ones. It's a slight issue, that's why it doesn't run particularly well, but there's another reason it doesn't run well, because that axle doesn't turn at all. If you can listen, if you can hear, they spin reasonably freely. And that one. But this one doesn't spin at all. So we're going to whip it off and try and see what the problem is. I haven't actually had a provisional look at this yet, so I've got no idea what this could be caused by. The only thing that I've noticed is there is a bit of free play in the ones that spin, and this one doesn't have any free play whatsoever. The side-to-side free play, which could possibly mean that the bogey's distorted. Let's take this apart and see what's going on. Okay, the way to get these apart, quite easy. Be careful. You need a knife or a very small jeweler's screwdriver. It's just a clip. Okay. It's just a clip. It comes off. That cover comes completely off. And there's the two axles. The one that doesn't want to spin and the one that does. So it's the same problem. It's nothing to do with the cover. It's really the lack of sideways movement. Why is that? Something's wrong. Something is jamming that. Okay, let's measure this thing. First of all, let's try a different axle. Okay. So, let's check these two axles. (19.996), 19.996 millimeters, identical. Inside should be the same because these are precision cast wheels. There's no way there's a problem with them. Let's check those two plastic axles. They're nice and clean. I think the problem lies with this. Let's check the distance between the bearings. I can't see what the problem is. Something is stopping it from spinning. There's no flashing. Got it. The distance between, there seems to be some free play between the inside of the wheel and that flange cast into effectively the bearing block of the there seems to be, there's about 1 millimeter of free play there on the insides of the wheels, whereas this one, it doesn't have any free play, which leads me to believe that this may well be wider than the other one. Narrower, sorry. 13.87 mil. 14.15 mil. That's getting on for it's over there's about 0.3 of a mil. That's enough. That's enough to stop this wheel spinning. In fact, it's slightly bigger than that. So why is it like that? Is it distorted? If I separate those out, does that solve the problem? If I pull those apart, because they may well just be distorted from the mould, does that solve the problem? No, it doesn't. Because the problem's on the inside of the wheels. It really does seem to be on the inside of the wheels. There's just no free play. I don't know if you can see this. There's free play. If you look on the inside of the wheels, there's a boss, a flange on the bearing, and there's a free play of getting on for 1 millimeter. This one doesn't have that. There's no free play. There's no movement. And it isn't the outside that's restraining it, because if I pull those apart, there's still no movement. So it's the inside. So why is it like that? Let's measure that again. It's a bit awkward to measure it because I can't get the calipers in properly, but we'll try and measure it without distorting anything. Okay, so we're looking at 14.22. On this one we're looking at considerably less, actually. Yeah. 13.86. It's over, it's a third of a millimetre, which is a third of a millimetre in inches, I don't know. 30 seconds, something like that. So, how on earth do we do that? Well, I know how we do that, but why is it like that? The only reason it must be like that is because that profile there, that U shape, must be distorted from the mould. The quality of that on the plastic on these bogies is not the same quality of plastic as used on previous bogies. Have I got one of these? You can tell by looking at it. Look at the flashing here. Can you see the flashing? I've got an, and here. No, that's not flashing. So that's flashing. I've got an old one of these somewhere. There. This is an older one from an older train. The quality is, the moulding is just much more precise on the old one. It's a new mould. I can tell it's a new mould because the number's the same number, but a different size. T871, T872, actually the 00 is blocked out, so it's not the same moulding, it's not the same mould, but it's the same part for the same train. There's the movement, yeah. Oddly enough, not a lot of movement in that one, but just enough. So how are we going to fix this? I think there's only one way to fix this, is to file a bit off, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to file a bit off the inside of here and the inside of that and see what happens. Get myself a flat file. A flat file. It doesn't need a lot because there's actually a bit of flash in there as well. So this is going to be the same sort of fix. I think this is just going to take a very light file. If possible, align your file with any reference point you can on the moulding. Keep it all squared up, otherwise you'll be filing plastic away. That's actually not helping. See, there's even flashing on there. The quality of these parts is not particularly. Quality of the mouldings. I think the design of these trays is fab. The mechanism for the driven bogies is really cute. Universal joints and. Okay, let's square that up. If you haven't got files, you're going to have to do this with some sandpaper. Stick a bit of sandpaper to a lollipop stick. That's what you need to do. Have we got some movement? We've got some movement. Now we've got some movement. But we've also got some flashing in there as well. careful when doing this, because if you start to modify the bearing surface, you could change the way that this wheel, you could actually stop it from working completely. I'm not touching the bearing surface on the inside, I'm just touching the edges of it to make sure there's no flashing there. The inside surface really needs to stay polished, clean. There we go. Now we're spinning. Spinning the same as the other one. I could probably carry on and do a bit more, but I think that's it. I'm going to put it back together, see how it looks. This is really simple. It goes over the end, 2 little ears, and it just clicks. It couldn't be easier. I don't know if you can see this. Compare these bogies that don't have the needle point. I'll take the other one out as a comparison. No, I won't. Yes, I will. This should be similar. But compare them with the... this is a bogie from a different train, the same as the ones on the carriages with needlepoint bearings. Look at the difference. I mean, it's so loose, it's actually telling me my worktop's not horizontal. And I think my worktop's almost perfectly horizontal, but it's... I don't like these dummy bogies at all. Look. That's my next project, is to try to convert these to needlepoint bearings. That's a separate video. Okay, let's get this thing back together. You've got a little arm there that just hooks over. It's just the way that bogies work. They work with a different principle. They don't have the pivots of the bogies on the carriages. They just have a little nodule there, which is effectively the bearing, universal bearing. It allows it to move. It allows it to rotate, also allows it to move in that sense. What would you call that? Vertically, laterally. Okay, so that they seem to be working. As I said, the fact that it doesn't run particularly well is purely because of the type of bearing it uses. If you compare it with this one, it just wants to go on forever. That's a separate issue. That's part of the design. There's nothing I can do about that without major surgery. Okay, so that's 3 quality control problems fixed. So I'm going to call it time on this video, and I'm going to put this thing together, run it, and if there's any other problems, there'll be video number 2. Okay, good luck, happy hunting, bye for now.